What's happening, good people? We're here recording Dirtcast number 9 for the old floor traders out there. JD's nuts. How you doing, man?
What's up, you cherry?
Cherry is a good one. Oh God, what are we seeing in the markets today, JD? We had the S&P just trade up to 56.60 this morning, back off to 56.35. Rates are falling apart like wet socks on a chicken. What's your feel out there, bro?
Man, the rates market is unbelievable. So twos are at 394. Okay. Fed funds are at 5.5. We have Jackson Hole on Friday, right? So I went into the WARP screen on Bloomberg, the world interest rate probability, where you look at like the probability of we're pricing in about 1.4 rate cuts in September. I think we should be pricing in 125 basis point rate cut. I don't think he's going to do 50, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Powell is the ultimate hawk. Why at the end of this guy's 8-year tenure would he give all of that up and cut rates 50 basis points and risk starting off inflation again? I don't see it. So the the treasury market, I literally I just don't understand it. And sometimes, you said floor traders. Like I was a floor trader, you were a floor trader. Like sometimes when you just don't understand something, you just got to get the hell out of the way, you know, and because it just doesn't make any sense. So
Great advice. There's a thing. Part of trading and a big part of trading is spectating, right? And if I look back on like every single year of trading that I've ever had, one of the gravest lessons that I always have to relearn is like, man, if you just sat on your hands for this little period over here that you were getting things wrong, or if you just sat that trade out when you were getting it wrong and just watched, for me, a lot of the time that's a good answer for trading. And yeah, the treasury market is on a bull run right now. That's really what it's doing is it's causing like this deflationary vibe across the commodities markets. And I often wonder if this is sort of how the Fed does a great job managing expectations, right? They may be able to do very little now because the markets are doing a lot of work for them.
did
um,
you see the payroll revisions today?
I didn't see him today. No, what was that?
Okay, so we got basically 2024's non-farm payrolls were revised lower by 818,000 jobs. So about 68,000 jobs per month that we were reporting did not exist. Okay. So this has significance for the market, but it also has significance for politics. And Trump is already going after Biden, saying you were putting out fake economic numbers. I don't I don't think it's really that sinister, but if you look at the market reaction when these payroll revisions were announced, it was pretty much priced in. Like we knew that this was going to happen, except for the treasury market. The treasury market is just ripping faces off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that is airy. And yeah, I don't know where it sits on the, set of dishonest things coming out of the current administration, but I'm sure it's on the radar. The people in charge of the data are going to do what the people in charge of the data are going to do, and that's about it. One of the interesting things that we just saw was on this recent dip. I was writing about it this morning, where in May the S&P bounced off of 5100 and took what 3 months to get up to 5700, and then we just had this big sell off in the VIX spike where we bottomed at 5100 again and traded up to 5650 in
yep,
a dozen trading days, right? It was the
yep.
fastest VIX melt in history, from when the VIX traded above 35 to back into the median range of 17 and a half. 7 days it took to mash that thing back in its hole. Now, I want to ask you, I wanted to consider this rally something that we could have sold at a certain level, but I haven't even been able to dig my heels in at a level. And this has been a much faster recuperation than even the bear market rallies of the .com bubble. Now, it leads me to believe that that is bullish for the stock market. What do you think about that and the speed of this recovery that we just saw?
Well, I mean, the fact that we had mini crash wasn't really the weird thing. The weird thing was the huge vol crush afterwards. Like you said, like it took 7 days to get back the VIX back to 15. Very unusual. When I'm looking at a chart of the S&P, yesterday we put in a DeMark 13 on the S&P, right? So I don't. We've done, this is podcast number 9.
Yep.
On all of these podcasts, I've been on the bearish side. You've been on the bullish side. Um, like whenever I see a red 13 on DeMark, like it gives me pause. So that's, I'm leaning short at the moment. Um,
Are you still
but
short Nvidia?
I am, yeah, I am. I'm short from 113 ish, and now it's like 128. So
You got that
yeah,
one right at the kazoo.
yeah.
Good times. Good times. Yeah, the kazoo horn for sure. Speaking of the kazoo horn, let's talk about gold. Hey, hit the bobblehead, hit the horn. Right, gold trades up to what, about 25.30, a new high. The way I saw it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, it was Kamala Harris even in the polls with Trump, no matter what you think about them. Then she opens her mouth about price cuts, about a $25,000 stipend to new home buyers. Twitter gets filled up with Milton Friedman quotes from 50, 60 years ago, right? We're back to talking about price controls and how inflationary. Gold is like, oh, I get it, 2,500 bid, no offer, right? That's how I saw gold taking off. Do you see it that way differently?
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, that's what's going on. By the way, Kamala Harris yesterday proposed 44.5% long-term gains taxes and a 25% unrealized capital gains tax for people with $100 million or more. So
Now I got out the abacus and a clean yellow legal pad when I tried to figure out what my reaction would be to being taxed on capital gains. What it led me to do was a whole lot of selling. Right? What is your take? What does that do to the stock market? In JD's words, please.
I mean, if this, first of all, it's not really realistic that this would happen. Okay. The Senate is 86% chance going to the Republicans. The Republicans have a very secure position in the Senate. So it's not really happening. So, and also, even even if Congress wasn't divided, there would still be some back and forth, and it would get passed in some diluted form. But look, if you have if I have like I have my house, like I'm sitting here in my house, right? And my house is X and Zillow says it's 2X, right? So 2X minus X equals X, and I have to pay 0.25X to the government on an unrealized gain. And by the way, if the value of the house goes back down to X, I don't get my money back.
Right.
Like it's insanity. Plus, I mean, the real problem with this is if you're talking about people with 100 million in net worth, right? Like family office people, stuff like that. Like you need appraisals for businesses, for homes, for yachts, for stuff like that. You need to get appraisals. And this has been done before. The wealth taxes have been tried before. They did it in France, right? They passed a wealth tax in France. And you know what happened? They spent more money trying to collect the tax than they actually collected in tax. Because rich people have resources, they sued the government, they tied it up in courts for years and years and years, and they never collected any tax and they just spent a lot of money. It is one of the dumbest things of all time. And the more she opens her mouth and comes out with policies like these, the less people like her. So she peaked like a week or two ago, when she wasn't talking to journalists and she didn't have any policy proposals or anything like that. And now that she's opening her mouth and she's coming out with concrete policy proposals, people don't like it. She's headed down in the polls.
Yeah, maybe. And, maybe the whole taxing unrealized capital gains is like the Overton window being kicked open a little further for, like, to build in more of the communistic policies and then maybe get a chance to rein them back at some point, and everybody is like takes that as a sigh of relief. I don't know how they're playing it, but they're playing it pretty hard. Gold has been sort of bid only since, like you said, since she's been opening her mouth. And with even in the polls, you got to add gold to the portfolio if you hear this batshit crazy stuff, no matter what, because President Harris is unfortunately a non-zero probability. What's interesting to me is that gold made it to the Axios newsletter today. You were always careful about the magazine cover curses and things like that.
Sentiment in gold is red hot. It
It's
is
getting
red hot.
hot.
And there's also a DeMark 13 in gold,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
There is. So
Well, against this adorable journalist here, Axios's Felix Salmon, who usually writes about checkbook balancing and things like that, points out that a 400-ounce gold bar is now
$1
at
million.
$2,500, worth $1 million. Big, yeah, right, exactly. Big round numbers. All we are doing right now, JD, is pointing out that sentiment is sort of getting to the red line hot area. Um, you can do with it what you like, but like I've been saying, it is a slow and steady grind higher. I still don't feel the need to trade it very much. This gives me pause to, at least, whether I sell any or not, expect a pullback because
Yep.
sentiment is getting hot, right?
Yep.
That's kind of where we are. Braden, make sure you throw that chart up of central banks buying gold. JD, what changed for central banks in the last 10 years that turned them from seller to buyer of gold?
Well, it wasn't really 10 years. It was really like 2 or 3 years, and
Fair.
it was the invasion of Ukraine, right? Because we put sanctions on Russia, we took them out of the SWIFT system, and we seized their freaking assets.
Yeah.
Right? We froze their assets and they lost hundreds of billions of dollars. So the rest of the world looks at this and says, "Well, I don't want my assets frozen by the United States. So I'm going to buy physical gold and domicile it in my own country so they can't take it." Right? So that is why central banks all over the world have been buying gold, especially China. Remember, we had Cuppy on. He says, "You just want to front run China. China's buying gold. You want to buy gold, right?" So,
That might have been the best quote out of Macro Dirtcast history. That quote about just front and run China, because their algos literally just go for years, and it looks like the gold one sure as hell still going, especially against that chart that Braden just threw up there for us. So, also in the markets, JD. Oh, one thing I want to talk about that's sort of we're setting up for it, and an observation that I've made is, as gold is bubbling here and we get that red 13, and as the stock market is frothy with that red 13, we're also seeing, the dollar index, which is backed off sharply, which is a call that you made like 3 dirt casts ago. But now we're at the bottom of the range in spike bottom type of form. Same thing in rates, right? Rates have fallen so fast that we're getting to the lows of the year and the sort of bottom of the sideways range. I feel like that trade could be ripe for a retracement,
oh
right?
man, it's all about Jackson Hole. If
Yeah,
Powell is hawkish on Jackson Hole, this is all going to reverse and go up people's kazoo, like you said. Like it
exactly. And
is
and now remember, the up the kazoo trade is going to mean a sell off in treasuries, a rally in the dollar, a sell off probably,
in gold.
and exactly even harder in gold, precious metals,
Yep.
base metals. They have full green light to just trash them, right? And it also means higher rates. To me means Nvidia might have just put in a third lower high, and that it's green light go to short that thing again. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree
man.
more. So I
When's
did
Jackson
all
Hole? When's Jackson Hole again?
Friday 10 a.m.
Friday, 10 a.m. Okay. Eyes peeled. We'll have to rustle ourselves out of bed for that. But that's the way it looks like. That's the setup to me. It's all depending on how the market is positioned versus how the Fed has managed these expectations, and the market has gone and spiked the football with rate cuts, essentially. And we'll see if they're still celebrating.
Yep.
Um, I think we're going to go to off-market topics unless there's something else. Any other?
Let's go to off-market topics. I want to bring something up.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. Lead the way. Go ahead.
What actress, what woman has looked the best in any movie of all women in any movies ever? And I'm going to come out with one, right?
Man,
Charlize Theron in The Italian Job.
I knew you were going to say that. I literally, it was I was going to say that as my
Yeah,
option, knowing that you were going to say that. Why are you
yeah.
saying that? Give us the
She
download.
is she is literally glowing in that movie.
Yeah.
She is glowing. She looks so good, and she's not my type. I'm not into 5'10" blondes. I'm not. So she looks healthy. She looks radiant. She's just of any movie of all time. She looks the best in any movie.
I love your comment that she's not your type because aside from the height, she's not particularly my type at all. But like you said, when you see her, she just looks like a different type of female. Like she
Different
looks,
species.
yeah, like a different species. Like she got like way hooked up in the gene pool versus all the rest of them. And it doesn't matter that she's not your type. Very difficult to take your eyes off her anyway. Yeah, I'm totally with that. That was a good segue. I like the way you just ripped the band-aid off there. I want to talk about that was your little axe to grind. I want to talk about the DNC convention just briefly and like more specifically that like on top of like the Antifa riots that they've got, on top of having to beef up the Chicago Police Department, on top of the flag burning, they've got a Planned Parenthood RV giving out free vasectomies and abortions. And we're not going to go into the detail on that, but I just kind of take a step back and say that like there's no message at the DNC about like God, family, country, right, patriotism, achievement, things like that. It's more like, look, if you want to end your bloodline, we got sterile instruments in the van, man. Hop in, you know? And I'm like literally blown away that they are posturing themselves like that. Do you have any opinion on this absolute madness?
I've never had a vasectomy. Have you had a vasectomy? I know this is kind of a personal question.
It is a personal question, and I'm not going to answer it. But I will
Okay.
tell you that no, you know what? I'm fair. I'm allowed to say that 3 kids later, with the intention of having no more children in my life, I have gotten one, and it has been a great decision. So that's where I am.
Yeah. Well, I never had any kids and never really wanted them, but just the idea of getting snipped kind of didn't appeal to me. So I
How
just,
about getting snipped in a van outside the DNC convention? Does that blow your hair back at all? I mean, you wouldn't think of doing that. You know what? Before the convention, I'm going to get a sandwich. I'm going to get my balls clipped. Then I'm going to go over here and meet some friends, and we're going to go in and root for the party. Root for the heart of what the party is all about. And I just don't know how they're even getting away with it. Like Michelle Obama and Barack spoke last night. Like who fucking cares? But like my favorite thing, this I just have to mention. My favorite thing that I saw on Twitter. I saw a video of Chuck Schumer coming out dancing like a blithering idiot. And because of what he looks like, it's so cringe to see him attempt to dance. And I came across this tweet that said, with the Chuck Schumer video prancing into the DNC, quote, that feeling when you filled up on adrenochrome outside at the PP abortion bus. Oh man, that was a mic drop for me. Anything else to touch on in the DNC? Where you think? How you feeling about the election right now? If it happens tomorrow, what happens?
I mean, I think the polls consistently undercount Trump, right? So
Yeah.
if they're showing Kamala ahead by a little bit, it's probably close to even. Um, I think it's a jump ball. I do.
Yeah, as scary as it sounds, it feels like a jump ball, and it seems like close enough to. It's going to be close enough for any little bit of deep state chicanery that they need.
Having said that, I think we got the sentiment peak in Kamala. I think we got the sentiment peak, and
Yeah,
she's going to be coming down. And wait till the debates, because her and her word salads and her constant hedging, she can't speak. Like Trump is going to flambe her in the debates. So
yeah. It sounds like that probably is going to be it. The problem that you have is that they just never let off the gas because Trump will flambe her in the debates, and the next morning we'll wake up and the machine will be saying, "Whoa, she held her own there, and the polls are a little bit closer this morning," and you'd be like, everybody in America goes like, "What?"
I mean,
But
I will say that I think people are excited about her for one reason, because she's not 80 years old, right? Like, I think people were upset with the idea that we had two 80-year-old candidates and she's 59, which is still not really young. I mean, John F. Kennedy was 42, Clinton was 44.
Right.
But, at 59, she appears to be young. And I think people are just excited about a younger candidate who's not a geriatric candidate. And even Trump, Trump is 78. He's got all his marbles. Like, he's very with it, but still he's 78 years old. And if he got elected president, he would be 82 when he was out of office.
Yeah. 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 I think that's why, the powers that be within the party were like, okay, that's why the coup is going to work. We've got the replacement that no matter what, we can sell it, and it's going to be an improvement over Joe, and we're going to make the media machine make it look even more realistic, and that'll
I
be fine.
think I think this communism is going to follow her around.
Yeah.
KAMunism. I think
Yep.
this communism is going to follow her around, and the
Yep.
fact that she picked this ding dong as her running mate, who has never owned a stock, never owned a house, never had a mutual fund, has
Yeah.
made 30 trips to China,
Yeah.
30 trips to China, right? Like, this is going to follow her around. And
Yeah.
I don't this is, for what it's worth, like, this is America. Like, people are not ready for far left economic policies. I don't think they are. Maybe they will be someday, but they're not today, not in 2024.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think literally, like, the average Joe Sixpack is wildly aware that that's not what he wants. It's not what's best for his family and his business and things like that. So I think the cat's out of the bag. But just to open up that 30 trips to China can of worms for a second, my mind goes automatically to he's in their pocket, especially when you have a guy like him that promoted the BLM riots like he did, and because of some other things on his record. Do you think that is a sign of foul play that he's visiting so much, or just a sign of, like, influence, and he's in their pocket, or he's not in their pocket, he's a disciple of their
I
beliefs?
I think
And
I think it's both. I think it is foul play, and I think he's a disciple of their beliefs. Here's a story for you.
Yeah.
When he was 28 years old, he went to China for a couple of weeks. He came back. He spoke to a bunch of high schoolers in Nebraska, and he told them that China was a great country because everybody shares.
Hmm.
Like, this is his ideology. This is Kamala's ideology. Like, they are truly far left, and this is what we're up against. So,
Man, and they've got the support of technology,
and
and
he got a DUI when he was 33. This is not a youthful indiscretion, right? He was 30. I mean, it's not like he was 19. He was 33 years old.
oh yeah, there's
You
more
know,
on his record than that too, right? And, like, isn't he caught, like, lying about being the high school coach of a team that he wasn't actually
he
the
was
coach of?
defensive coordinator, and yeah,
Well, I mean, like, whatever, however the, right, the machine on the right decides to attack him. The ridiculous thing that I think that I see in the machine on the right is they try to go after Kamala for, being drunk and things like that. And it's like that she has so much going wrong with her. Like, whether or not you can prove, which you really can't, if she was drunk making a speech, like, what the hell doesn't that just detract from your argument, from how stupid she is? Like, that's a really good argument. Like, and it's right there in front of your face. Like, why change the argument from anything? So, that's what these campaigns tend to do, is try anything to throw everything at the wall and see what works, rather. We should talk about the Yankees. There's a pretty cool streak going on, right, JD?
there's a streak. I saw they lost to the Indians, Guardians last night.
Oh yeah, but Judge and Soto, you mentioned to me, what they got,
Oh, yeah,
five
yeah, yeah,
five back
yeah.
to backers.
They, Soto and Judge have gone back to back 5 times this year. Now, you'll never guess who did it 6 times, and it's not Ruth and Gehrig. Mark Teixeira and Johnny Damon.
Wow.
Mark Teixeira and Johnny Damon went back to back 6 times in 2009.
With the Mariners.
No, with the Yankees.
Teixeira Damon. No, sorry. I had somebody else in my brain for Teixeira. Sorry, I was brain farting. Okay, got that. That's fun. That's unbelievable. Well, here's one for you. Who's got the team record for back-to-back home runs? You want to guess?
Team record?
Team record for back-to-back home runs. Doesn't have to be the same two batters. That might be a hint.
Is it the Mariners?
Yeah, that is the Mariners. That one. That was with Ken Griffey Jr., Jay Buhner, A-Rod, and Edgar,
Yep.
all in the same lineup. Imagine facing that murderer's row, man. Oh,
Jay Buhner used to be a Yankee.
yeah.
They traded
Yeah.
him for Ken Phelps.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Traded him for Ken Phelps, and then he went on to be an absolute crusher for the Mariners, like most Yankee trades. No, some of these players though just can't play in New York, right? And that's just their problem. Randy Johnson was the best example ever of a Yankee that couldn't play in New York. Do you remember the unit signs the biggest contract in Major League Baseball history? And you'll tell me what year it is. I don't even remember. Was it like 96 or something like that? Or maybe even earlier? He gets interviewed in New York. He's walking around New York City with his wife looking at apartments for a place to live. A reporter comes up to him and asks him like a lollipop question, like, how you like it here in New York? And he's like, get away from me. You know what I mean? He like started freaking out at the press automatic.
That.
Right. You remember that? And
Yeah.
I was with my buddies. I was like, this is not good. That was not a good reaction to that lollipop question. And of course, he went on to shit the bed for the first several seasons, and did not have a good career in pinstripes at all.
Well, he's not exactly anonymous walking around the city. Like, he's pretty tough to miss. 6'10" with a mullet, like,
and the stash. Yeah,
yeah.
You're not missing Randy walking around New York City, but it was just so jarring that you're just sitting there waiting to hear his reply, and his response was like vitriol at the media, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a short freaking stay.
Remember Ed Whitson?
Yeah. Oh man,
Ed
he was
Whitson.
another one. Holy smokes. What next topic? How did the Tim Green recommendation go?
Oh my God, everybody loved it. Everybody loved the Tim Green recommendation. I mean, I got more of that where that came from. I would check out Sebastian Leger, Leger, Sebastian Leger. Check him out. Casper Coman. I mean, there's check out Leger. It's in the same genre of Tim Green. So.
Has any of that stuff been in the mixes that you've made?
Oh yeah.
Then I've heard all these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll just be muscle memory for me. Well, if it's in part of the mixes that you've made lately, then it is absolutely great house music. I do trust your taste. I think it's excellent. And like I said, it's my favorite music to listen to when I'm working without words or guitar. I can just.
I'm gonna make a new mix over Labor Day weekend. I'll have a new one up. So.
What are you doing for Labor Day weekend?
I'm cleaning out the garage. I have no plans. We might have some people over to get in the pool or whatever, but I don't have much in the way of plans. So
I hear that. I'm going to be sulking. I just took my 2 teenagers back to college. The same college, knock on wood, thank God, which is awesome. And it's going to be a very empty nest around here for Labor Day weekend. But it does pave the way for the fall here in Atlantic Beach, which is a really, really nice time of year for the locals because all of the bridge and tunnel people stop coming around and parking on your lawn. So that's a real nice thing for us. One thing you want to check out here, I got a recommendation for you. If you're a Russell Crowe fan, Joe Rogan just interviewed him and posted it yesterday. And I was in the car driving back from the southeastern United States and popped it on as soon as it came on. And it's a really good podcast. I mean, Russell Crowe is a really likable guy, and it was a great off-market topic, set of topics about, the entertainment industry, about, a lot of physical stuff because Russell's really banged up from all of the stunts that he's done in acting. And of course, Joe is like a regenerative, practically PhD in like self-care and healing and stuff. So it's really interesting to listen to.
I love Russell Crowe.
I was just going to say, what's your favorite movie of his? Because there are, you think about it and several jump right to mind, and then you're like, oh man.
You leave Gladiator out of it. I would say A Beautiful Mind. But I would say sort of a sneaky one. I would say Master and Commander. Master and Commander is really good.
I just rewatched that the other day. Someone on Twitter posted what's your go-to movie of gonna stick it in and watch it again movie, and Master and Commander came up a dozen times. And I gave it another viewing, and it stands up. It stands up over time. Russell Crowe is a big part of that. The story is a big part of that. But another one of his good ones is The Insider, about the tobacco industry. That was as interesting as it was a great acting job. And he transformed his body in that one too, to look like, this old guy with gray hair. And it was really, really cool to see. But that's why Joe Rogan's the best, because he gets him on for 2.5, 3 hours to tell, all the war stories that you wouldn't get out of him in any other form. So that's really, really cool. What else, JD? Do you got any other things off top of mind that you want to talk about today?
No, I just want to talk about Night Moves.
Let's do
So
it.
if you want to pre-order the Kindle, the ebook, it is up on Amazon. So just search Jared Dillian Night Moves. Pre-order the Kindle. It's coming out September 23rd. The physical book is being offered on September 23rd. So if you want to read the physical book, you wait until then. But you can pre-order the Kindle. I've already had a bunch of pre-orders. It's fantastic.
Awesome, man. Good for you. Your books are the best. They're always fun to read. I would highly recommend Night Moves. I got to read a couple stories and they were great. And I'll be getting into it when Brad Pitt reads it on Audible. That's kind of my sweet spot. But that's it. I think we covered everything. We did a lot of great off-market topics. Time to say goodbye.
Hasta la vagina, my
Hasta la
friend.
vagina, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See ya.